I love that it does the disembodied recording in process voice now. That's probably my new
That
favorite.
is new.
Yeah. Also, hello everybody. Happy
Hello.
Wednesday to you all. Greetings from the Sustainable in the City Thinking Upstream crew. I hope you're doing well today. And in lieu of the typical witticisms that we talk about with what you had for lunch, I'm curious if anyone would be interested in a upcoming episode on water filtration. Now, it doesn't sound very sexy, but the process in which water at your house, how it gets there, why is it potable, why is it drinkable, and also wastewater is very interesting to me. And if it's interesting to you and you think we should maybe do an episode on it in a couple of months, go ahead and just let me know what you think in the chat. And be sure to select in the chat all attendees as well as panelists so we can all see that. So if you just go to the chat, it says like a little 2 drop-down thing, just do panelists and attendees. But again, just on wastewater treatment facilities, filtration, just all the fun things about water that we maybe take for granted.
I tell you, I'm definitely interested in that. I know a lot about it, so I think it would be a really good episode to have, especially as us here, myself at Waste Services. Now, this building I am in, this office is now in Water Services Administration. We've been taken over a little bit by Water Services. So very excited. I would definitely be interested in having some of these folks here share about it. It's a really interesting process. Also, a lot of sustainability aspects to it as well. So
absolutely. And Denise raises a great point. Yes, especially the topic of recycling wastewater. Now that's so interesting. But I just want to make sure that it's not just like a weird thing Patrick's into. Oh, and we are going to be getting started momentarily. It's 12:02 right now. Maybe we'll give it another minute and then we'll get going.
And make sure, as Patrick said, so it looks like y'all are most of you are getting into the habit of selecting that to all panelists and attendees when you respond in the chat. So that's something that we are going to be using a little bit more today. So make sure that you set your chat up to respond to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see answers that are coming in. And Mackenzie asked, what was the question? Our question today, instead of asking you about your lunch, we want to know if anybody would be interested in seeing a presentation in our 4th quarter about the water treatment process and wastewater treatment process. And as Denise said, recycling wastewater. So there's a lot of sustainability that goes into how you get clean water to your tap, as well as what happens when you flush the toilet. So curious if you all would be interested in seeing that and hearing more about that in one of our upcoming episodes.
The process of how water goes from your toilet to coming right back out of your faucet. Is that the case? Who knows? Also, what did everybody have for lunch? Let's stick to our guns a little too. I'll go first. I just heard pizza get delivered to the office, so that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Nice. I'm just going to say, I'm very excited. I don't know if y'all have noticed the 7-Elevens popping up around Nashville. 7-Eleven has come to Nashville. And if you weren't aware, 7-Eleven, July 11th is Free Slurpee Day. But because of all the COVID, they've extended to Free Slurpee Month. So I'm going to go claim my free Slurpee today, and I am way more excited about it than I probably should be, but I'm really super pumped to get a Slurpee. I haven't had one in many, many years. So that will be a dessert part of the lunch.
I think it's funny that you described it as all of the COVID. And on that note, Chin, it's 12:04. Do you think we should go ahead and get started?
Yes, let's do it. So thank you all so much for being here for another episode of Sustainable in the City, Thinking Upstream. This is a collaborative educational series about how you all can learn about what's going on in the city that's sustainable, that's waste related, and it's brought to you by Urban Green Lab. Patrick King is my co-host with the mostest. And myself, Jen Harmon, I am with Metro Nashville Waste Services and deal with our zero waste program. And today, so first off, we've talked a little bit about the chat. I'll remind those that maybe are just joining. We are going to be using the chat today, so make sure you are responding to all panelists and attendees when you respond in the chat, rather than just us wonderful panelists, so that everybody can see our answers. Also, as always, please use that chat panel for asking questions to our guests today. We will have a Q&A session at the end. And then if you're also having any technical difficulties with anything, with any issues, you can reach out to me or Patrick. We'll be watching the chat throughout the whole presentation. But today we are really excited to bring to you two of my favorite colleagues and coworkers from Metro General Services. So we have Laurel Creech. She is the Assistant Director of the Division of Sustainability. And we have Jennifer Westerholm, who is the, I don't want to get it mixed up, Sustainability and Outreach Manager over at General Services as well. And they run the Socket program for Metro General Services, which is a fabulous program. And they are here to tell you all about that and how they're trying to help make Metro more sustainable. So I am going to turn it over to Laurel and Jennifer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and welcome so much for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. We appreciate it. Yes, you and Patrick are some of our favorites as well in Metro government, as we're trying together to make a more sustainable community, and we're honored to be here today. Before I begin sharing my screen, if you had attended a few of the past Sustainability in the City programs, you probably saw the Sustainability Advisory Committee that the mayor put together talk about the Climate Action Report and the import change. And we in the Division of Sustainability, which is a team which I'll talk about just shortly, are very committed to that. As you probably know, if you've been watching the national news, we have heat wave after heat wave, hurricanes in the south, record temperatures after record temperatures. And the world has just concluded the hottest decade on record in 2021, second highest emissions year ever. So the work we do is all the more vital, not only the work we do in general services, but the work we also do with Jen and her team at Public Works, and many other amazing volunteers and organizations such as Urban Green Lab that are really working to try and drive emissions in the opposite directions for the goal that will be less than 1.5 degrees Celsius increase by 2030. So that's the precedence of why we're here and the work that we do each and every day. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and so you all can see the slideshow. Okay, so as I was saying, we're a Division of Sustainability in the Department of General Services in Metro Nashville Government. And a little bit about Metro Nashville Government for those who may not know about the sweeping landscape and geography of Metro government. We are a consolidated city county government. So our entire city is all of Davidson County. And that means that we have a large swath of land that Metro oversees in terms of being able to offer public services, but it's also very geographically different. You've got very urban centers like downtown, and then you have very rural areas out in such as North Nashville, et cetera. Very diverse population, and our growth is continuing, as you know very well. We were the first government to consolidate back in 1962. So we're going to be celebrating 60 years as a consolidated government next year. So that's a really big thing for us. We do have an elected mayor, and the mayor serves 4-year terms and is limited to 2 terms. And then we have a Metro Council of 40 members. And that Metro Council of 40 members is one of the largest Metro Councils in the United States. So you can imagine how sometimes challenging and easy, kind of goes both ways in passing legislation through the Metro Council. So here is our team of Metro General Services. So we have Jennifer Westerholm, who is going to be speaking here in just a little bit. She's our Education Outreach Manager for Sustainability for the Socket program. We have Michelle Hammond. She's our Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Specialist. Freddie Adam, he is our Energy Manager. And then Edna Jones, and she is our Electric Vehicle Coordinator. So we are so thrilled that we have a great team. We are going to be bringing on a landscape manager onto our team. And we'll also be bringing on a renewable energy specialist as well. So our team is growing, which is always good in the field of sustainability, the more impact we can make. So our division was really pleased that last week we were recognized as a winner of the Governor's Environmental Stewardship Award for our division's work. And that is an honor, a true honor that Governor announces every year. And we specifically in the category of pursuit of excellence. That category is only eligible for entities, organizations that have received previous awards in the past. We did receive a Governor's Environmental Stewardship Award for Fire Station 19, being LEED Platinum back in 2017. So we're really excited about that honor and very grateful for the selection team from Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation for that. So a little bit about, I'm going to dive into a little bit about specific work we do, but on a larger scale, the city of Nashville is a member of the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. And it ensures that we as a city, we're committing to making sure that we meet the Paris Climate Agreement goals as laid out and agreed upon by our nation. So we have re-signed up under this current administration under Mayor John Cooper. And with that comes requirements as well, such as regular greenhouse gas emissions inventories and climate action plans. So back in February of 2020, Mayor Cooper established a volunteer sustainability advisory committee of about 50 plus members of very experienced and knowledgeable members of our community that have been dedicated to helping us establish a climate action plan. And back in January, the committee presented the climate action report focused on mitigation efforts the city needs to be taking. And so that is available on the mayor's website or on the nashville.gov website. And that plan is being reviewed and hopefully will be going out very soon as our formal climate action plan. And we also will be working on or are working on an adaptation plan as well, which is also a requirement to be in compliance with a Global Covenant of Mayors. So here's a snapshot of, if you go to the Global Covenant of Mayors website, you can type in the cities. There's thousands of cities across the globe that have agreed to be a part of this and committed to this. So this is a snapshot of what you can see. So you can see that we have our mitigation badges. We're working on our adaptation badges, and I'll talk about the inventory very shortly, but this is the snapshot of our city. And you can go on any city that is a member of this on this very easy to use website. As part of that, we have to do annual reporting through a reporting tool called CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project. It's a very robust scorecard that Michelle Hammond on our team and several members of Metro government work on improving our scorecard so we can continue to improve on receiving our badges for the city and stay in compliance with our Global Covenant of Mayors agreement. So I'm going to talk about emissions, but just have a question for you guys. If you can post your response in the chat. So which of these contributes the most to Nashville's greenhouse gas emissions? And this is all the Nashville community. Is it buildings? Is it transportation? Or is it landfills? So type away.
All right, we have some responses coming in. Again, everybody feel free to keep answering the question, but when you do, make sure you hit panelists and attendees so everyone can see your response. And Laurel, we are getting a mix of responses, but it looks like most folks think it might be transportation.
TikTok, TikTok.
All right, yes, we're just getting answers all over the place. Hans thinks it's landfills, Susan thinks it's buildings, Jackie Goodwin thinks it's buildings, Victoria thinks it's buildings, Gina thinks it's transportation. Oh, what's the answer?
All right, here we go. Transportation is it. So this is a snapshot. We do our greenhouse gas emissions inventory approximately every 2 to 3 years. It takes a while for inventory data to come in. And so if we do an inventory, like let's say this year, 2021, we probably the earliest we could, or the latest we could get the data is probably for the calendar year 2019. So we conducted this inventory last year, 2 years ago, about, wow, pandemic really does mess up your calendar, 2 years ago. And we used the calendar year 2017. Also, when you do an inventory, you want to make sure there's not vast anomalies in that year, such as the pandemic. So the pandemic year of 2020 would not have been a good year to use for your data for your emissions inventory. So this is the 2017 emissions inventory. And so for the community, transportation increased pretty dramatically from the previous inventory of 2014. There's numerous reasons for that. Number one, yes, we are growing, and therefore we have a lot more single-use vehicles on the road, as you probably can experience if you're in traffic. Even though vehicles are becoming more fuel efficient, there's still a lot more out there, and the growth in the number of vehicles are continuing to increase. Number two, buildings went down in terms of emissions compared to 2014 because of energy efficiency in the built environment, as well as continued renewable and cleaner energy in the Tennessee Valley Authority fuel mix, which contributed to buildings actually going down. If for those who put in buildings, that would have been correct for 2014, but is not correct for 2017. It is transportation. So all the more reason why, first of all, active mobility. If you can walk and bike, that's number one. Number two would be if you can carpool an electric vehicle. Third would be, well, actually transit would be right after active mobility, then carpooling an electric vehicle, then driving just an electric vehicle, then the last would be just a fuel combustion engine. So if we can start looking at those tiers and really focus, of course, transit would be a tremendous asset to us, and then electrification of our fleet, which is something I'll talk about in just a second. So I had mentioned the Mayor's Sustainability Advisory Committee and their climate action report that they put together and submitted, and that is on Nashville.gov's website under the sustainability section. And so that report had very strategic focus areas to reduce emissions in over the next several years to mitigate climate change. So that means that we're trying to fix and reverse the damage that is done. And an adaptation plan is a plan that is trying to get prepared so that the damage isn't worse than it may be. So for the mitigation components, there's green buildings, waste, energy, mobility, natural resources, and there's a list of great recommendations that are in that plan. So a little bit about the Department of General Services. So we are one of many departments in Metro Nashville government, and we currently manage approximately about 86 facilities in range about 3.6 million square feet. And our type of facilities are all over the map: libraries, police precincts, courthouses, general admin buildings, police training facilities. They're all over, and it doesn't mean that we manage all the fire stations, and it doesn't mean we manage all the police stations. We only manage approximately 56% of all the facilities in Metro Nashville government, which is a little bit of a misnomer. Most people think we manage all, but we don't manage all. It gets a little bit complicated, but we do typically build the new buildings when we have new capital funding to build new facilities in Metro Nashville government. And so because of that, we've been very diligent in following a mandate for LEED certified buildings, leadership in energy and environmental design. The previous ordinance for LEED certification was required to have a minimum of silver LEED certification for all of Metro Nashville. About 2 years ago, that was increased to LEED Gold in the Urban Services District and remains LEED Silver in the General Services District. In addition to that, LEED upped their bar on the requirements. So new facilities built the last 2 years or so have been more vigorous to get the certification level. So in the top right corner, you can see the Southeast Complex, Southeast Commons, and that hosts our Southeast Library and Southeast Community Center, and also the first Ford Ice Center in the Southeast area of Nashville, Davidson County. Then you can see the Metro Courthouse, which I'm sure that you all are familiar with there. And then over to the right-hand side is Bellevue Library, and Bellevue Library is a LEED Gold facility. So I am gonna try to do a video here. The Bellevue Community Center is a facility that was completed about a year and a half ago in Bellevue, and has been a really great asset for our community. And lots of folks have been enjoying it. It's got an ice center there, but I'm going to let you view this, and hopefully sound will go good and you can learn a little bit more about the facility.
We're very excited about the opening for the Bellevue Regional Community Center. This is a almost 48,000 square foot facility, which will be General Services' 24th LEED certified building. We are excited about all the different aspects of this facility, including the fact that it's got 432 solar panels, which is offsetting approximately 37% of the facility's energy consumption. We have 8 dual-port free electric vehicle charging stations, some green parking and compact parking, as well as, of course, bicycle parking. We also have a hydration station in the front, and we also have green infrastructure that includes tolerant plants and native plants that are easy to maintain and will be very lovely as they continue to grow as the facility matures. We have efficient plumbing fixtures throughout the facility and submeters and sensors so that General Services can track energy consumption within a 1 minute to 5 minute time period to ensure that there's efficiency in energy consumption and use. We've got greenhouse keeping throughout the facility and recycling to reduce waste consumption. And overall, just looking forward to this being a thriving and exciting location for all Bellevue community.
Well, we're excited about this facility. It's our 10th installment of a regional facility. And basically the concept of a regional is that we have a state-of-the-art fitness center, NBA-sized gymnasium, indoor track, arts and crafts studios that comes with a pottery and art studio, which I think is very unique with this facility.
The Bellevue Socket Kiosk includes an interactive screen with creative educational games about sustainability. Games include coloring, puzzles, quizzes, and videos. The colorful socket backdrop is the first thing guests see when they enter the facility. It encourages a fun, vibrant ambiance.
This provides West Nashvillians the resources to prioritize their personal health and well-being. This city is deeply rooted in art and creative expression, and every time we take strides towards making participation in the arts more accessible for all Nashvillians, that is a cause for celebration, and you are helping make that happen right here in Bellevue.
All right, great. So hopefully you guys were able to enjoy that, that exciting video. You can find more of that on our socket.nashville.gov website. There's a clicker up there at the top, or one of the navigations. You can click videos, and there's lots of different videos on there as well. Also, I wanted to mention that for the LEED buildings, so we have, General Services has built 27 LEED buildings, and we currently manage 24 LEED facilities. And approximately makes up around 20% of all, a little over 20% of all of our square footage of the facilities that we manage. Okay, let's see, why am I not? Oh, sorry. Okay, so I talked a little bit about LEED, and in addition to that, I do want to mention that in this capital budget, we were able to get seed funding for an energy savings revolving fund, which is very unique. Not many of them have been established by sustainability divisions across the nation. So what that means is that the $2 million goes into a fund, and then we identify the poorest/lowest performing facilities that Metro has, and we invest those dollars into retrofitting those facilities. And then the savings, the energy savings, will go back into the revolving fund and reinvested into ongoing retrofit projects citywide. So it's really exciting. A lot of cities are looking to see how we do, because this is something that hasn't been done in many cities across the U.S. So we're excited about that. So more to come. You can follow an update on that on our SOCUT website. We just got the funding, so hold on for a few months till we start getting some projects underway. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we do have our energy manager, I had mentioned Freddie Adam. He operates out of the Center of Responsible Energy out of Howard Office Building, and has many different technical advances that he utilizes in the facility. So he's managing all the building automation systems, the solar installations, the electric vehicle charging stations throughout the city, et cetera. So he's got a lot on his plate to do that. This is an example of one of our control monitors for a building automation system. And these are really important in facilities because they set the temperature and typically also the lighting schedules. And so that you don't have one office at 78 degrees, another office at 68, which is driving up your costs and energy consumption. So this is a much more way to control it, but make sure that your customers, visitors are comfortable as well. So having automated systems like these in facilities do help with managing and monitoring consumption of energy and water and your electricity for lighting. Here's another example of some of the lighting techniques through the building automation system that our energy manager manages. And then as I mentioned, he also manages our solar production. So Metro General Services has 22 rooftop solar installations. They produce about 1.8 million kilowatt hours of clean electricity, which equates to about powering more than 215 homes a year. It is a default that we put new solar installations on all of our facilities when we build them, if possible, and maximize the rooftop so that we can utilize that generation on site. Okay, well, I didn't give this away. I was a little worried I gave this away. I don't think I gave this away. All right, so Metro General Services, which is about 95 buildings, are powered by how much solar? And this is about the number of panels / megawatts. I told you megawatt hours, kilowatt hours, so hopefully I didn't give that away. But anyways, go ahead and type away in the chat, and then I can give the answer when we're ready.
All right, everybody, one more time, just remember to hit panelists and attendees when you're throwing that answer into the chat. Laurel, I don't know if you gave it away, but it seems like, I'll take that back. We got some wide-ranging answers. It looks like currently right now the front runner is B. Got a lot of B's coming into the chat. Well, we do have a couple of folks who think it might be C or A.
All right, are we ready to give the answer, you think, Patrick?
I think so, and the crowd agrees that it might be B.
Well, you probably, if I gave away a little bit of the kilowatt hours, you did your math, and it is B. It is 1 megawatt. So that is correct. So good job, everybody. So around 2,500 solar panels on our facilities, and approximately one megawatt of total solar. In addition to that, back in December of last year, we went into an exciting partnership with Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, and to put together a large-scale solar installation through a program called Green Invest. And it's going to be 100 megawatts, and it's located down around the Bell Buckle area of Tennessee. This 100 megawatts will help Nashville meet our renewable portfolio standard, which is a ordinance that went into effect about 2 years ago, which is an annual stair-step requirement for Metro Nashville government to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2041. So when this installation begins generating, which will be approximately 2023 by the time it's all installed and on, it will meet our goal up to the year 2026. which is fantastic. Now that does not mean we need to stop putting solar on our rooftops and any opportunity we can to do solar, because the more renewable energy that we have, the better. But that is an exciting project to watch. And again, we hope for that to be off the ground by 2023. Oh, I just talked about that. Okay, yes. And so renewables, as you probably know, if you're on this call, this meeting, it's the sun, wind, and water. Typically, sun is predominantly the source of renewables here in our area in Nashville, Davidson County, but wind is becoming a stronger source of renewable energy across the state and across the nation as well. Hydro, not so much, but there are and will be more opportunities, I think, for hydro in the future. So another thing that we have is we are trying to electrify our fleet citywide. In Metro Nashville, Davidson County, we do have a requirement for Metro fleet to go all electric by the calendar year 2050, with stair step every 5 years to increase to get there. So where we are right now is our fleet is a very large fleet department. We have fleet light, which is like sedans and things like that. And then we have fleet heavy, which is like trash trucks and fire trucks and things like that. But overall, we have a count of over 3,000 vehicles in all of the fleet that our Office of Fleet manages, which is located in the Department of General Services. As part of trying to electrify our city and moving in that direction, we do have 88 electric vehicle charging ports that are level 2 chargers, and they are located throughout Davidson County at Metro sites. They are free to use, and they are through the company ChargePoint. And then we also have 10 pool car share electric vehicles that are available at 5 different locations across Metro for our Metro employees to use during the workday. And that's been a very successful program. Not only is it driving emissions down from instead of them having to use their own vehicles, but it also is helping kind of get them used to the drivers about what an EV is and how fun it can be to drive, sometimes how fast it can be. But that program has been a really strong program for us. So Nashville's EV charging infrastructure is ranked which number in the Southeast? I just mentioned to you, we have 88 electric vehicle charging stations across Davidson County. So go ahead and type away in the chat if we're number 1, number 2, or number 3.
All right, we are getting some answers rolling in. A couple of folks think C. Someone says A, B, A. Oh, we're all over the place. I got a lot of B's. Keep the answers coming, y'all. And again, that question is Nashville's electric vehicle charging infrastructure is ranked number what in the Southeast? I'm gonna go with C personally.
All right, let me know when you're ready to unveil it.
Yeah, our answers are all over the place. A lot of folks think it's either 3 or B or C. You know what, Laurel, just go ahead and give it to us. What's the answer?
Number 1. So we are number 1. Let me go back. We're actually number 1 in ranking in the Southeast for EV charging infrastructure. And that was rated by Rocky Mountain Institute. They did an analysis and survey and research across the Southeast. And it's because we have such, to them in comparison to other cities, such a high number of free level 2 functioning electric vehicle charging stations. And one of the ways that I think that we've helped get there is because whenever Metro Nashville General Services builds new facilities, we automatically put in charging stations. And if the project budget doesn't have enough funding for the actual to do as many charging stations as we like, they do a few charging stations and then they put the electricity conduit in to prepare for additional stations that might be needed in the future. So we were shocked but excited and honored to be number 1 for EV charging infrastructure. We still have a long way to go, in my opinion, on doing more infrastructure and driving up demand for EVs. So as I mentioned, we do have an ordinance requiring that for electric vehicles that was put into place 2 years ago. And the emergency vehicles were not included in the ordinance requirement. However, the police and fire department are open to discussing moving in this direction as well, which is fantastic as technology continues to improve. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Westerholm. She's our Education and Outreach Manager for Socket, and she's going to take it over from here.
Great. Thanks, Laurel. That was great. And gold stars to everybody. You did wonderful on the guessing. Some of these were a little bit tricky, but thanks for participating. So yes, I'm Jennifer Westerholm, work with Laurel in our Division of Sustainability within our Department of General Services within city government here in Nashville. And because we are the General Services Department and we do all of this work that Laurel has touched on with, you know, designing, constructing, and managing city facilities, with procuring and repairing and then decommissioning city vehicles. There's so much opportunity in that to be sustainable, to conserve resources, to do the right thing, to save taxpayer dollars, and to be more efficient. And so because we do all of this work, we want to tell our story. We want to tell the story of sustainability successes at the city government level, both to our internal audience, our employees. We have about 9,500 general government employees that work for Metro. And then of course to all of you all, the city, you know, our Nashville public, about how we're wisely spending your taxpayer dollars, about how we're conserving resources and, you know, committing to sustainability for our city and for the future. So the way that we do that is with Socket. It is our education and outreach program. This cute little guy is Socket the dog. He is kind of cute here. We are the Department of General Services, DOGS. So we had to go with a dog for our mascot, of course. So he is our furry mascot that helps us tell our winning sustainability story across the city. Next slide. So let's see. Yeah, so we have a lot of different initiatives to try to tell our story and to try to, within these many facilities, you know, upwards of 85 facilities that Laurel mentioned that we manage, to make sure that the occupants of those buildings and the visitors to those public facilities are, you know, being sustainable. So as Laurel mentioned, we build to high LEED standards and we build amazing sustainable facilities, but how people work and visit those facilities is also, of course, very important to the ultimate sustainability of those places. So one of the things we do is we put signs throughout our facilities, and here's some examples. Some Metro employees very excited about their new recycling sign on their desk side recycling bin, but to try to emphasize for people, you know, solid waste is a huge issue, and there's something that each of us, whether you're an employee of a facility or a visitor, can do on a daily basis to reduce our overall solid waste. And then if we do have something, the correct way to dispose of it. We also have a couple of facilities in which we're piloting composting. So in these facilities, we encourage the employees to compost their food scraps and other organic material, and then that's picked up and it's composted off-site. So efforts to reduce solid waste through signage and awareness and things like that is something we focus on. The lower right picture is, as you may know, city sites are often the site of voting and elections, and we've had quite a few in the past few years. It seems like every few months there's another election, and of course with that comes signage. Often the candidates leave their signs behind. They don't necessarily always pick them up. And so we have taken on responsibility for any signs that are left, removing them, taking them apart. We have a way to recycle the metal, and then to actually reuse the corrugated plastic, we donate it to Turn Up Green Creative Reuse, which many of you may be familiar with. And they have artists and teachers and others that actually use that corrugated plastic for different projects. Next slide. So again, with kind of this raising awareness throughout these many facilities that we have throughout Metro, whether it's office buildings, community centers, libraries, fire and police stations, many of our facilities have informational kiosks with touch screens where visitors can explore. They can watch, Laurel showed you the video of the Bellevue Ice and Community Center. Visitors can see those types of videos specific to that location. They can see the sort of the story, the sustainability story of that facility. They can play educational games. Some of them are more kid focused, especially in our libraries and community centers. So again, a way for us to highlight what we're doing to be green and sustainable throughout these facilities in a way that's natural for folks who are coming into the facility and being in that space. So next time you're in the Howard office building to update your tags or pay your bill, or in many of our facilities, come and check out those displays, please. Next slide. So I mentioned earlier, we have kind of two audiences, the general public, but also our employees. And we feel like it's really important to start internal, right? We want to lead the way. We want to be an example, and making sure that these almost 10,000 Metro general government employees are thinking about sustainability on a daily basis, thinking how they are working in that facility could be made more efficient. How do they optimize that? And how do they reduce waste throughout their day? So we've done a number of employee workshops for various departments and various facilities across Metro. And these are just a great way to, again, reach individuals, answer specific questions, and also talk about, hey, did you know that you work in a LEED gold facility, for example? And did you know that all of these features that they may not have ever noticed before are actually contributing to lower energy costs and lower water usage and all of these sorts of things? So it's a great awareness raising tool that we use. Next slide. And Victoria, I see your question about a copy of employee workshops to share at our workplaces. I'd be happy to share some of our resources. Yes, because a lot of the tools that we provide to our employees are somewhat generic, right? They can be they would apply to many workplaces. So I'd be happy to share that with Jen and Patrick, and they can share that with you. So another thing we do for our internal audience, for our employees, is called Metro Connect. This is one of my favorite projects, and it's got a cool story. So a few years ago, we learned about a project actually in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we just thought it was awesome. So we applied for a grant, and we and a couple other peer cities from across the country traveled to Fort Collins and got to learn from the people doing this program what it was, how it worked, etc. And so what this is, Metro Connect, is our version of this program. It is tours of innovative and sustainable city projects and facilities that are led by Metro employees for Metro employees. It's a great way of getting people out from behind their desks, connecting interdepartmentally to learn about what are the most exciting, innovative, sustainable projects that our city is doing. So we've been doing this since 2017 was our pilot year, and then we do it every fall, and we've visited dozens of sites across the city. These pictures are showing our Metro employees visiting the Nashville Farmers Market at the top. In the bottom right is actually the convention center, the Music City Center, with so many different green and sustainable features. And then on the left is Metro employees riding a bus, which many folks have never done and don't know how to do. One of the great benefits we have as Metro employees is we have an easy ride pass, so we're able to ride the bus for free for business purposes, but a lot of folks haven't tried it. So these are just a few examples. We have, as I said, many dozen, but trying to kind of lower the barriers for Metro employees to engage in sustainable behaviors and also be more aware of all the cool sustainability things that are going on within city government. So this has been hugely successful, and it's great. So we love it and highly recommend it. Also, Victoria, if you have kind of workplace, sounds like maybe education programs, I'd be happy to talk with you about this kind of program, a tour-based program, a hands-on program that's been really successful. Last year was not hands-on because of COVID, it was virtual, but we actually found a lot of success with that. Some of our Metro employees who can't leave their desks, maybe they're first responders or someone that has to be sort of available at any moment, can't attend the in-person tours, but with a virtual option, we were able to allow them to participate too. So kind of nice. All right, next slide. So we also, again, have this external focus and try to do projects and outreach within the community. We do have a small staff, as Laurel showed you in the beginning, so we don't do like a ton of different projects or events, but we do like to get out into the community when we can. And so here's some photos just from tabling events, outreach events. This one in the bottom left is a weed wrangle we did a couple of years ago. So yeah, next time you're at Earth Day, check us out. We will be actually at the Urban Runoff 5K in Shelby Bottoms. That's August 7th. That's our next event. So come see us there. It's a 5K dedicated to clean water. So we'll be there, and we'd love for you to come by. You can see in the upper right here, this is Socket the dog in person, not the cartoon version that you saw earlier, but this is like the dude. So he's a lot of fun. We generally have him come out at events, and he's either a really big hit with kids or he's quite terrifying to children. So depending on your child, you'll have to discern whether you want to invite your child to meet Socket, but he's a lot of fun and helps us, again, to kind of spread the message of sustainability to everybody, folks, 0 to 100 years old. So next slide. Okay, so if you think Socket is awesome, if you think the Division of Sustainability is awesome, which we hope you do, we would love to have you get involved with our work. We're actually recruiting right now for fall interns. So generally we are looking for college juniors and seniors, as well as graduate students with an interest and passion for sustainability. And they get to work one-on-one with our small team on really interesting research projects, data analysis, communications, things like that. So we'd love to have you pass that along. We always want to hear your thoughts. So we are a government agency. We are here to serve the Nashville public. So if you have suggestions, ideas, concerns, comments, please share them. Here's our email address, socket@nashville.gov. As Laurel already plugged, we have a great library of videos. So if you want to see how, many of the buildings that you may visit on a weekly or monthly basis, whether it's a library, community center, office building, etc., was constructed, why it's sustainable, check out our library of videos. They're short, very interesting. So check out the videos on our website, and our website is socket.nashville.gov. Tell a friend, spread the word. Especially, we would love to increase the folks who follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Socket Nashville. And we post all the time about different events or just different interesting articles, updates. For example, next week we're having an opening, grand opening, one of our facilities, Fire Station 32 in Hermitage, Tennessee. That's next Wednesday. So just things like that. It's open to the public. We'd love to have you come out. But yeah, keep updated on cool things happening in your community that are related to local government sustainability. And then last but not least, we have a sustainability library on our website. And this is a new partnership with Nashville Public Library, but it's a curated list of resources for children, teenagers, and adults. So if you're just wanting to kind of expand your knowledge in the sustainability space, check it out, because again, it's a curated list in partnership with the public library, so you can learn more there. Next slide. So, oh, good. And Alexa loves the sustainability library. That's awesome. So we in general services, as we've kind of told you, try to do as much as we can to be sustainable and make our operations efficient. But there's lots of other great work going on right here in Metro government. And so I just want to highlight a few examples of that. So obviously parks and greenways, Metro Parks and Recreation Department oversees over 15,000 acres of open space. That includes almost 180 parks and almost 100 miles of paved greenway. So here it's just like, let's enjoy it. Get out there, be in that beautiful green space. I think being in it is one of the best ways to begin to appreciate it and want to conserve it and preserve it and grow it. So, do it and then bring a friend along. And I think enjoying our green space in Nashville is a great way to promote a sustainability ethic citywide. And of course, there's also a lot of ways you can help out with like trash pickups and stream cleanups and things like that. Next slide. So another way you can be involved Nashville Electric Service, I assume most of you are customers. They have a great program called Music City Solar. So if you may live in an apartment, or you may not have a house that's suitable for solar, or maybe you just don't want to put solar on your roof, Music City Solar is a way for anybody who is a NES customer to purchase solar energy. Like you buy like these solar panels, you're purchasing the energy from specific solar panels, and there's over 17,000 of these panels here on a former landfill up in Madison. So it's a great reuse of space, and these 17,000 panels are producing tons of clean, efficient energy, and you can be a part of that. So it's a small cost up front, and then those panels provide you with clean green energy for the next 20 years. Well, I guess it's more like 17 years now. At the beginning it was 20, but for quite a while. So look into Music City Solar. Also, Green Switch is an option through the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, that you can pay a couple more dollars on your bill each month and support green energy. And again, these options are awesome for folks who may not be able to put solar on their home, but still want to support renewable energy, clean air, and reduce pollution. Next slide. Okay, and so this is a plug for Jen and her team and the great work that Metro Water Services and Metro Nashville Waste Services does. Many of you have probably already downloaded the Waste Wizard app, but it's amazing. It tells you exactly what to do with your waste, where it should go, where it shouldn't go, and also alerts you to when your recycling pickup is, when your trash is going to be picked up. So download the app. Do it today, and also follow us on socials. Those are your 2 homework assignments if you haven't already done them. But Metro Water Services as well has a plethora of really great informational resources on their website. There's an education section, and they have videos, all sorts of things that go into kind of what Patrick was touching on about how does your water get to you, and where does it come from, and how is it treated, and all of those kind of really interesting and practical sustainability elements. Next slide. Okay, and then I think this is my last plug for other Metro initiatives, but Root Nashville. So Root Nashville is a public-private partnership, and the goal there is to plant 500,000 trees in Davidson County by 2050. Our urban tree canopy is less than some of our peer cities, and it's actually been declining a little bit. So the goal of Root Nashville is to reverse that trend and to make sure that we have amazing green space and trees covering our city. So this is super exciting. There's tons of ways you can be involved. This could be you planting a tree in your yard, or it could be volunteering for a tree planting somewhere else. So this is an ongoing campaign. Again, the goal being 500,000 by 2050. So encourage you to get involved there too, to help improve our air quality and make Nashville even more green. And I think that is all that we have. So thank you so much.
Laurel, Jennifer, thank you all so much for being with us today. That was very informative, super awesome. And I'm happy that I've already been to the Southeast Center down in Antioch. If you all haven't, you should definitely go, as well as like the other green initiatives that I wasn't fully aware of that the city was doing. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to myself to do the Q&A. And our first question was concerning the Global Covenant of Mayors. How many mayors are members?
Great question. Okay, I'm going to have to look that up.
I actually looked it up already. It's like 10,731 cities are members. So presumably, yeah. So over 10,000, which is amazing worldwide.
Okay. And this next question is actually from me. You mentioned that Metro General Services monitors and runs the facilities of 57 of Metro government buildings, right?
86.
86. Okay. My question was, why is it not 100? And yeah, it's a 2-part question. But the first part is, why don't you all manage all of the buildings?
So that's a good question. So when Metro Nashville government was consolidated, it was determined how to divide up the management of the facilities. And back then it was even more divided amongst many departments. So fire wanted to manage their fire stations, police wanted to manage their police stations, parks wanted to manage their facilities, et cetera. And those that were left over ended up in general services. There has been conversations about doing consolidation, if not necessarily all 100% consolidation under general services for everything, maybe just mechanical, electrical, and plumbing fall under us, because we do generally a good job at managing electricity costs and consumption. And that is one of the recommendations in the climate action report, is to do consolidation under general services. But a lot of conversations would still need to happen amongst some of those departments that really like to manage their own facilities and work out the details. So we do end up, when we build a building for another department like fire or like the library, we do end up managing it. It's not always the case, but typically. So that's why we've ended up having such quite a mix. But down the road, that would be probably the most prudent big step for Metro government to take, is to do some consolidation.
All right, thank you for that. This next one actually comes from me as well. Are there more plans for larger solar arrays in our region? Also, Hans, thank you for putting that question in. But Laura or Jennifer, before you answer that, folks, if y'all still have questions, feel free to keep putting them in the chat, and we'll just get to them in the order they come. But that question again from me was: are there more plans for solar arrays in our region?
So yes. So first of all, I do want to tout Metro Water Services. They do have a 4 megawatt solar installation going up in 3 different of their water services facilities. They'll hopefully be up in the very near future. So that's really exciting. And that energy generated will offset the Metro Water Services facilities consumption. So that's thrilling. So for Metro and the community, we would like to see more large-scale solar projects arise. There's a lot of tedious technical things that have to be worked out with TVA in order to accomplish that, and sometimes it can take quite some time. The Green Invest project took about a year before everything was signed and dotted, but we do hope that. I do want to mention that there are some very fantastic corporations in the state of Tennessee that are also driving large-scale solar, including Google and Facebook, as they are, and the solar they're doing is driving renewables onto the grid. Therefore, our mix across the TVA territory is getting cleaner, and the more and more in Green Invest projects that are done, the better, as well as the more on-site solar, the better. For the city of Nashville, we get a little bit challenged with how large we can go in Davidson County, because land is expensive, land is precious, and we're exploring that. Also, it's not as easy as if we're in a rural area where there are ample opportunities to do solar. So yes, I did see the question about Oracle. So as part of the agreement with Oracle, we didn't require, because we can't require, but requested that they have renewable energy as a huge component of their energy sources. So I don't know about the plans, but that is one of the stipulations that the council had asked and requested strongly happen before they agreed upon the Oracle agreement.
All right, Laurel, thank you for that and for answering 2 questions at the same time. This next one is for you, Jennifer. Does Socket do outreach with local restaurants about composting?
That's a great question. We don't. There's the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge. And so that program is really focused on that. It's really, it's driven through the mayor's office. And the idea is to recruit and onboard local restaurants to participate in reducing food waste and then finding sustainable solutions for, dealing with whatever food is left over, whether that's connecting restaurants to, folks who need the food and ensuring that food that is still edible, can be donated and actually utilized, or if it's legitimately food waste, then figuring out composting solutions that are affordable and doable for those restaurants. So yeah, encourage folks to check that out. It's the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge. And I think they have a list of all the local restaurants who are participating, but that's also a great way of, you can encourage your favorite local restaurant to participate as well. Make sure they're aware of that and let them know that that's an opportunity for them to receive some guidance and also some recognition for their efforts.
All right, thank you for that, Jennifer. And I will be sure to include the link to the Mayor's Food Saver Challenge in our follow-up email. It is right at 1. So Jen, do you want to do our little preamble for the folks that have to get back to work?
I will. So just first off, I just have to first and foremost thank our guests today, Laurel and Jennifer. This was fabulous information, so much robust information about what Metro is doing and their sustainability goals and efforts. So thank you both for being here, but don't anybody leave. If you can stay, because we are still going to get into more of those questions, but if you do have to leave right now, if your lunch hour is over, be sure to sign up for our next Sustainable in the City. It's July 28th. It's a Wednesday at noon as always. And we're going to be talking sustainable fashion. So really excited about that presentation to bring to you in just a couple of weeks here, in 2 weeks. So we'll drop the link to that in the chat. So if you have to go, we will have the recording to you out later. Patrick's going to follow up with an email with all of these good links as well, so you can catch the questions. But with that, let's get back to the questions.
Get right on to it. So this next question was from a conversation in the chat about a composting facility for the city. Jen mentioned that Metro Nashville partners with the compost company who has a facility out in Ashland City. And one of the viewers asked why Ashland City and not Nashville. Transport requires energy.
Yeah, it's definitely a good note for any kind of facility that's taking waste or recycling or any of our materials that we're trying to manage with having that transportation. I can't fully answer this question for the compost company, so I am going to encourage everybody to register for our upcoming Sustainable in the City with Clay Ezel from the compost company in September. He's going to be able to answer it more specifically for their company, but I do know that this facility does have to be permitted through the state. So there's a lot of regulations. They have to deal with stormwater. They have to deal with also neighbors, just any kind of facility. Even though composting, especially if you're a home composter, it doesn't smell bad, you still have a lot of those neighbor issues. As Laurel, you had mentioned, property in Nashville is, it's precious. It's not cheap. So trying to find what fits best for their, through all those different parameters that they're trying to work through is, I'm sure, how they ended up out in Ashland City, to where they're able to service Nashville as well as able to service the agricultural, the farmers that they work with and the people that they're selling the material to as well. But we'll definitely make sure to put that on our list to ask Clay specifically in September.
Thank you for that, Jen, and also appreciate the shameless plug for our upcoming session. Always love it when we get one of those in naturally. So the next question is for you, Jennifer. Would Socket ever lead a training for other large Nashville employers, i.e. Mars down in Franklin with 500 local associates?
Yeah, so we've had the opportunity in the past to work with private sector partners and do presentations for companies, and we always enjoy doing those because obviously our goal is to have Metro government be kind of leading the way on these efforts, but then, encouraging our private sector partners to do the same. And as Laurel kind of alluded to, we do have a lot of mandates that affect what we do at the municipal scale, but we don't necessarily have a lot of mandates on the private sector. So to the extent we can use the carrot and encourage people and get that, information and excitement out there in the private sector, we love to do that. So yeah, if we have capacity, we do a lot of focus kind of internally first and then to the greater Nashville public. But if there's an interested business audience that would like for us to come and talk about the work we're doing and how that might kind of translate over into private sector operations, I think we'd be very interested in that. So Mackenzie, please feel free to contact me. I'm jennifer.westerholm@nashville.gov, or you can use that socket at nashville.gov, and love to hear more about the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Jennifer. This next one goes to Laurel. Laurel, do you know where exactly in Bell Buckle the panels are being installed? And I'm not sure who this came from, but they're all for solar. They have rooftop units themselves, but using farmland is less than desirable.
Sure. So it's between Bell Buckle and Tullahoma, probably closer to the Tullahoma area. So what's interesting about the Green Invest project is that TVA initiates a RFP, request for proposals, from developers. The developers then identify the land in the project scope, and they submit that proposal to TVA, and then TVA reviews them to see if they're eligible. One of the review process that TVA does is to ensure that the land is and cannot be usable for other sources. So the project that we have selected in the Tullahoma Bell Buckle area is land that is not eligible for agriculture. And in fact, there's some things there that it really is not eligible for much at all. And so it's just wide open space there that can not be suitable for other elements. So that's why it was a desirable project for us. They are doing a full environmental review of the site right now. That takes about a year actually, and that's why the generation doesn't begin until 2023. So we recognize that being valuable, and that's another reason why it's so hard to find land for solar projects in Davidson County, because if it's rural, typically it is can be used for agriculture, or there's Indian burials or things like that that we just do not want to be disturbing. So it's a great question. I thought the Ashland City question was about energy loss distribution, but it was about composting. But I did want to mention Jennifer Westerholm put a post in about the Green Invest, a link to that. The Green Invest, the generation at the Green Invest site goes to the grid. It doesn't go specifically to the city or the business that has the agreement with TVA. And that's why I talked about the whole grid becoming more cleaner, because as more and more of these large scale solar projects that come on board, the cleaner energy we have grid wide. So yeah, so hopefully I answered that question.
I think you
And to
did.
tag team on that, Laurel, it also helps our already very robust network of electric vehicle chargers be more effective from a sustainability standpoint, right? You guys have probably seen if you're EV owners or aspiring EV owners that, like, depending on where in the country you live, you know, the sort of benefits of driving an EV vary, because if you're pulling electricity from kind of dirty sources, then it's not as green to drive an EV as if you're, you know, live in a place that uses a lot of renewables. So exactly what you said, Laurel, to the extent we can green the grid, it helps in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for tagging in there, Jennifer. And infrastructure is the name of the game when it comes to renewables and EVs. And we have one more question. So folks, if you're still online and you do have questions, please submit those. But this last one, I'm just going to paraphrase. And are there any initiatives or things like that happening around sustainability as it concerns to Metro Nashville Public Schools?
So I can do one thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. So we just applied for a grant to hopefully do some strategic planning around conversion of buses to be all electric down the road. So fingers crossed about that. But I know Jennifer has been involved in some conversations with schools about that question.
Yeah, and I'm sure Patrick may want to jump in here too, because Urban Green Lab is doing a lot in this space. But I think it was late last year, the council approved a student sustainability bill of rights or something like that. I don't probably have the verbiage correct, but it basically affirms that really every student in Nashville needs to, you know, have access to the outdoors and have access to facilities that are sustainable and clean and green, and that sustainability needs to be part of the education of all of our children in our city. And, you know, I think all of us, you know, here are doing that in different ways. Metro Public Schools has developed an energy office and energy programs over the past few years. So they've hired and brought on dedicated staff who are working specifically on decreasing the energy use throughout Metro schools. As you can imagine, it's a daunting task, right? All of these schools, some of which were built many, many decades ago, some of which are more current, you know, recent builds and are probably more efficient, but retrofitting older buildings and reducing energy consumption from a behavior standpoint. So we at General Services, I mentioned earlier, we work more with the kind of the general government, which doesn't include MMPS. So we don't work a lot directly with MMPS, but we do see that they are putting a lot more investment, especially around energy reduction and energy conservation in schools to make those facilities more efficient. And Patrick, you can talk more about this too, but Urban Green Lab in the past several months has been working diligently on complementing those existing efforts within MMPS with sort of a more community-based sustainability strategy for how Metro Nashville Public Schools can move forward with not only making their facilities more efficient and reducing emissions kind of from the built environment and their operations, like Laurel said, with school buses and things like that, but how at sort of the curriculum level that MMPS can begin to integrate sustainability into what they're teaching, whether it's science classes or, you know, literature. I mean, sustainability is one of those really cool shape-shifting kind of topics that can really kind of weave into almost any discipline. So I know Urban Green Lab has convened a group of stakeholders over the past several months to give input in a variety of areas and to develop a draft sustainability strategy for MMPS that is going to be presented to them for their consideration and implementation. But happy to, Patrick, if you want to tag on there. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, and Jennifer, thank you so much for that. Once that is submitted to MMPS, it will be on our socials and on our website as well, so everybody can have eyes on that. And just one last thing, if you are a teacher or know a teacher in Metro Nashville Public Schools, as Jennifer mentioned, we do have a Sustainable Classrooms program, which gives teachers all the tools that they need to incorporate sustainability into any lesson, into any subject. So if you want any more information on that, feel free to visit our website. That's just urbangreenlab.org. And on that note, we don't seem to have any more questions. Jen, is there anything else we want to mention to folks? We have our next session 2 weeks from today at noon on sustainable fashion. We're going to be speaking to Camilla Sanders. It should be a really, really interesting episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Just thanks for everybody for being here for another episode of Sustainable in the City. It is so wonderful to have so many of you interested and caring about being more sustainable here in Nashville and learning both what you can do and what the city's doing. So thanks for all being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And thanks again to Laurel and Jennifer. Always a pleasure to have you and talk with you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see everybody in a fortnight. Until then, take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.